The AT&T hold on the iPhone has been broken. Starting in January, the largest U.S. mobile phone carrier, Verizon Wireless, will start selling the iPhone 2. For more on this, we are joined right now by James Ratcliffe of Barclays Capital and Yair Reiner of Oppenheimer. James is a top-ranked analyst on Verizon, according to Bloomberg data. And Yair is also a top-ranked analyst on Apple, according to Bloomberg. They're with us now for a Bloomberg exclusive roundtable conversation. Thanks both for joining us this morning. James, I want to start with you. Seems like the biggest winner in all of this is Verizon, but you say it's not such a seismic shift. Why is that?
First of all, it's hard for customers to switch. And clearly there are some customers at AT&T who have had iPhones, want the iPhone device, have been unhappy with AT&T. But switching will, A, cost you money. If you're in contract, it's between $375 and $525 to switch.
But James, maybe you switch, but it just takes you longer to do it.
You might do so. But the AT&T network actually has been improving, and outside of certain areas, it's actually been quite good. So I think that the press perception of the amount of dissatisfaction is probably a distortion. Secondly,
because
you also...
the press is based in New York and San Francisco, and that's where they've had the worst luck, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and perception is reality, of course, in marketing, but still, it's had an impact. Secondly, about 70% of handsets are in family plans. So you might... dad's handset might be running out of contract and might be able to switch that, but are you going to switch the other 3 handsets in the family before their contracts have expired? So, I mean, what you've seen is, to this point, churn at Verizon, which has not had the iPhone, hasn't been notably different. Actually, it's been practically identical to AT&T. So I'm not expecting to see the flood of customers move over.
Yair, how many more phones than iPhones can Apple sell if people feel confident that, you know what, hey, they can just make a phone call without the line being dropped?
Well, right now, Apple sells close to 12 million units a year through AT&T. If it can add Verizon, it more than doubles its addressable markets. You can imagine it could more than double its U.S. position, so probably another 12, 13, 14 million phones a year, and as James says, probably more the first year because there's a lot of pent-up demand.
So were you looking at your target price for the stock and thinking, okay, if this happens, it's worth X percentage much more to me?
Well, I haven't looked at the target price, but I did look at the earnings. And if you get these extra 12 million units next year, that probably translates into about $7 billion of revenue and probably an additional $3 in earnings per share.
What does this do as far as competition with Google and Android, or is it just immaterial? It's a separate battle.
Well, I think Verizon's support of Android has been incredibly important. It's really been a huge champion for that platform, and I think that's provided a tremendous amount of momentum both for Android and its various partners like Motorola and HTC. I think it's a great platform, but I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for it to succeed the way it has if it has to go head-to-head with the iPhone, starting next year.
James, are you going to change any of your investment opinions on either AT&T or Verizon if this is in fact true?
Well, I mean, I already incorporated the addition of Verizon's iPhone to my AT&T and Verizon models about a week ago. And as a result, I took AT&T earnings up slightly, since my assumption is that once Verizon gets the iPhone, the subsidy AT&T pays comes down slightly. And I took my Verizon earnings down slightly because of the assumption of higher gross adds and hence higher acquisition costs. But I mean, certainly it's a plus for Verizon. It's a modest negative for AT&T. But it's also, I think, at this point, largely incorporated by the market, the assumption that Verizon will get the iPhone eventually.
Yeah, we've been sort of circling around this rumor for a long time. Yeah, this brings up a good point for Apple. Is it more important now that Apple just continue its dominance in the apps space? I mean, many people have said the success of Apple depends on how well it can continue to manage these relationships with the developers. In other words, it doesn't matter so much who the carrier is. They need to just keep mining this source. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think a part of that is to make the iPhone application platform more attractive than any other. I think the biggest threat to Apple is Google becoming a more and more attractive platform for developers. Again, I think that if this takes some of the momentum out of Android, makes developers think that iPhone is still far and away the primary choice for where they want their apps to appear, that's a huge positive.
What do you think about the idea that Apple really wants to just stay in this premium market, and maybe they don't mind if Google Android takes a little bit of the mid to lower market? Is that a fair assumption about Steve Jobs' strategy, or is that just the market reading in?
I think that's fair about his strategy in terms of product. I think the perversity of the handset market is that even premium products can sell the same price to consumers as lower-end products. If you buy an Android or an iPhone, you're still paying $200 as a consumer. It's the carrier that really pays the difference between a premium handset and a middling handset.
James, leaving you here with the last word on Verizon, AT&T, what's the biggest wild card to you right now? And it doesn't have to be in this context of Apple, but for these two stocks for the next year.
I think the biggest wild card is, particularly as Verizon rolls out an LTE network, AT&T continues to push forward with advanced 3G. Can they monetize that data stream? Can they generate additional revenue from it? Or are they going to continue to have to invest in network expansion and not be able to generate incremental revenue from the growth in wireless data?
Yair Reiner, thank you very much. Joining us on Apple from Oppenheimer, James Ratcliffe joining us there on AT&T and Verizon from Barclays.